For the last several decades, Final Fantasy VII has captivated millions of gamers. Almost every aspect of this game, from the graphics to the music to the replayability, has won acclaim, and the game is usually cited as one of the greatest video games in history. Perhaps Final Fantasy VII's most impressive characteristic, however, is its story. Final Fantasy VII features a complex plot filled with twists and turns. Playing the game through once is often not enough to truly grasp each facet of the game, and some of the events are worth recounting to fully understand the storyline. Therefore, this video exists to explain both the game's backstory and the events that unfold during the course of the game itself. I will stick exclusively to Final Fantasy VII and its official materials, deliberately avoiding information contained within other games in the Final Fantasy VII universe. In the interest of brevity, I will pay particular focus to the events of the storyline rather than tangential elements and side stories. With all that said, here we go. Hope you enjoy. Thousands of years ago, there was a race of inhabitants on the planet called the Cetra. The Cetra were a magical, nomadic race of individuals that could hear the cries of the planet and communicate with it in some ways. At some point, the Cetra took part in a difficult journey that divided the group into two separate subgroups. The group that chose to continue the journey rather than settling became known as the Ancients. The original group of Cetra that decided to settle before completing the task became known as humans. About 2,000 years before the game begins, Jenova, a mystical alien creature, crash lands upon the planet and creates a gash on the surface, the northern crater. Jenova is known as the Calamity from the Skies, carrying with it a virus that infects the Cetra, altering their consciousness and turning them into monsters. While humans remain safe from Jenova's wrath, the virus wreaks havoc on the Cetra population, eliminating almost all of them but a very small group. That small group of Cetra that resisted Jenova finally succeeded in locking her within the northern crater, ending the catastrophe but endangering the continuance of the Cetra. As Jenova unveiled its destructive powers, the planet created 5 huge creatures to defend itself, weapons to resist Jenova. However, since the Cetra were able to lock Jenova within the northern crater, the weapons were never used and their location is unknown. The planet at this time began to heal itself from the wound Jenova created using its life energy. This is a process that can take thousands of years. By the time the game begins, the planet has not yet fully healed. As human civilization flourished and technological advancements were made, the Shinra Electric Company emerged as the world's sole energy provider in the decades before the beginning of the game. In order to create energy, Shinra utilizes Mako power, harvesting energy from the planet. Mako is drawn from the Life Stream, a mystical force shared by the planet and all living things. Highly condensed Mako is known as Materia, an extremely valuable commodity known for its magical properties. After Shinra became wealthy, it assumed for itself the powers of world government, and created several new branches. Urban development, military, astronomical, and communications departments are created. In doing so, Shinra officially transitions from the Shinra Electric Company to the Shinra Corporation. Shinra reconstructs Midgar, a central government for the world, around a power plant. Midgar is composed of 8 sectors, with Shinra operations concentrated in the center. Surrounding Midgar's perimeters are 8 reactors, placed along the outside, which provide power to Midgar. Shinra also forms the Turks, a special operations force that carries out difficult or clandestine operations. While Shinra maintains power over world affairs, it seeks to prolong its dominance by searching for the Promised Land, a mystical realm of happiness and unlimited Mako. According to legend, only ancients know of its location. Shinra devotes immense resources to locating the last remaining ancients in order to discover the whereabouts of the Promised Land and to construct a new city, Neo Midgar, within it. About 30 years prior to the start of the game, Jenova's body is discovered and successfully excavated by Professor Gast, the head of Shinra's science department. He sets up a research lab in the Shinra mansion in Nibelheim, hoping to learn more about the creature. Initially, Gast came to believe that Jenova was a Cetra. Part of the Jenova research team is Hojo, an ambitious mad scientist that lacks the ethical integrity of Gast. Additionally, Lucrecia, a peer and fellow scientist, also takes part in the project at Nibelheim. Vincent Valentine, a Turk tasked with guarding Lucrecia, quickly falls in love with her. However, he realizes that Lucrecia has fallen in love with Hojo instead. Although distraught, he accepts the relationship on account of Lucrecia's apparent happiness. Lucrecia soon becomes pregnant with Hojo's baby. The two agree to inject the womb with the cells of Jenova, seeking to use Jenova's power to create a human with the powers of a Cetra. Vincent strongly protests the couple's decision to experiment on their own child. Lucrecia becomes stricken with immense guilt because of their decision and suffers from depression. Vincent confronts Hojo, who shoots and kills him. Hojo conducts genetic experiments on Vincent's body. He awakes as a mutant-like creature, unaware of Lucrecia's fate. Humiliated, Vincent encases himself in a coffin in Shinra Mansion. Soon, Hojo and Lucrecia's child, Sephiroth, is born with superhuman powers. Lucrecia dies shortly thereafter, although the Jenova cells seem to have preserved her inside of a crystal in a cave near Nibelheim. Hojo tells Sephiroth that his mother's name was Jenova, but reveals no other information about her. Presuming Hojo's pursuit of the Jenova project to be immoral, Professor Gast leaves Nibelheim. In doing so, he brings Ifalna, the last remaining ancient, to join him at Icicle Inn in continuation of his research on the Ancients. Genuinely curious about the Cetra, Gast records his conversations with Ifalna. After learning the truth about the Cetra and the Promised Land, he falls in love with Ifalna. They have a child, Eris. Just 20 days after she is born, Gast is discovered by Hojo. After Hojo demands Ifalna and Eris, Gast resists and is killed. Ifalna and Eris are then captured by Hojo. At some point, Ifalna somehow escapes from Hojo, making it to Midgar's Sector 7 train station, where she collapses. A woman named Elmira discovers a dying Ifalna and Eris, and promises to take Eris and protect and raise her. Although Elmira's husband never returned from the war in Wutai, Eris informs her of his death, revealing her special power as an ancient. Eris's power draws the interest of the Turks, and Sang is assigned to watch her every move. About 21 years prior to the events of the game, Cloud Strife is born in Nibelheim. He is a relative loner, but dreams of achieving greatness in Soldier. Tifa Lockhart is also born in Nibelheim around the same time. Unlike Cloud, she is outgoing and has many friends. Tifa and Cloud know each other, but they aren't close and don't spend much time together in childhood. One day, Cloud gained the courage to ask Tifa to join him at the well. After her mother died, Tifa ventured into the Nibelheim mountains. The two fell and almost died there. From that point forward, Cloud promises himself to become stronger in order to protect Tifa. He learns about Sephiroth's exploits and resolves to join Soldier. Approximately 16 years before the game begins, Shinra declares war on Wutai, and Sephiroth emerges as a hero of the conflict. Shinra quickly subdues Wutai, humiliating its leader, Godo, in the process. Shinra turns Wutai into a tourist attraction. Sephiroth rises through the ranks of Soldier, wielding incredible power. Around the same time, Shinra launches a space program in Rocket Town, employing an ambitious young pilot named Sid Highwind to pilot the first manned flight into space. On the day of the launch, technical issues involving his mechanic, Shara, lead Sid to cancel the launch at the last second. Shinra decides to withdraw funding for the space program, crushing Sid's dream. About 9 years before the events of the game, a man named Zack left his home in Gungaga to join Soldier. A skilled fighter, Zack made the cut and joined the ranks of the elite fighting force. Shortly thereafter, Cloud left Nibelheim with a dream to pursue the same goal, but ultimately fails to make the cut for Soldier. Instead, he becomes a soldier in Shinra's regular force. Ashamed at this failure, he cuts off all contact with his hometown. While stationed in Midgar, Zack meets and dates Eris. He sends letters to his parents back in Gungaga that mention her. 5 years prior to the events of the game, the most important scene in the whole storyline unfolds. If you take nothing else from this video, remember this next series of events. At that time, Shinra receives reports that the Mako reactor at Mount Nibel, near Nibelheim, is producing monsters and making life difficult for the workers there. Shinra responds by sending Sephiroth and Zack, members of Soldier, and Cloud, a regular Shinra fighter, to investigate. Hoping Cloud will be among the party, Tifa waits for him. Cloud keeps his presence secret, ashamed of his position as a regular Shinra troop. Sephiroth grows to detest Hojo, his father, whom he considers inferior to Professor Gast. Tifa serves as the tour guide for the group, bringing Sephiroth, Zack, and a disguised Cloud to the reactor. Tifa and Cloud stay outside while Sephiroth and Zack go inside to investigate. Inside, Sephiroth observes the mutated experiments of Hojo, created through exposure to Mako. Suddenly overcome with emotion, he questions whether his origins were similar. The party returns then to the Nibelheim mansion. There, Sephiroth discovers the notes left about the Jenova project in the basement library, including those left by Professor Gast. Obsessed with the project and with his past, he locks himself inside the library for days, in complete devotion to the pursuit of his past. When Zack ventures into the library, Sephiroth immediately deems him a traitor. He claims to be descended from the Ancients, thinking the humans that settled while the Ancients died off to have abandoned the original cause of the Cetra, causing the species to die off. Unaware or refusing to believe that Jenova was the cause of the catastrophe, he calls her mother and speaks of visiting her. As Zack leaves the mansion, the entire village of Nibelheim is engulfed in flames, and the townsfolk are all dead or dying. As a Shinra fighter, Cloud tends to his dying mother. Tifa's father, Tifa, Zack, and Cloud then all pursue Sephiroth to the reactor. There, Tifa discovers that Sephiroth has killed her father. Enraged, she runs into the chamber. As Zack attempts to confront Sephiroth, he is attacked and thrown back. Tifa runs up, picks up Sephiroth's sword, and attempts to attack him. However, Sephiroth slices Tifa, greatly injuring her. Cloud arrives immediately afterward, moves Tifa to a safe location, picks up Zack's sword, and moves into Jenova's room to confront Sephiroth. Cloud stabs Sephiroth from behind, then returns to Tifa. Sephiroth manages to remove Jenova from the fixture, but is so injured that he can only carry her head with him. As Sephiroth attempts to leave the reactor, Cloud runs outside to challenge him again. Sephiroth then stabs Cloud directly through the body. Somehow, Cloud is able to take hold of the sword, turning it on Sephiroth, and flipping him into the life stream below the reactor. Cloud then passes out. Zangan, Tifa's martial arts tutor, arrives and brings the wounded Tifa to Midgar. After she recovers, she sets up a bar called Seventh Heaven. Zack, Cloud, and the survivors of the fire at Nibelheim are rounded up by Hojo and experimented on in hopes of producing a Sephiroth clone. According to official records, Sephiroth is proclaimed dead. In reality, Sephiroth and Jenova's head drifts through the life stream, ending up in the Great North Cave. Now armed with the knowledge of the Ancients, he schemes to create a plan to rule the planet, a task that involves retrieving the Black Materia. The Black Materia would allow Sephiroth to summon a giant meteor to strike the planet, leaving a huge wound on its face. This would cause the life stream to push to the point of impact where Sephiroth plans to absorb the power contained within it and become a god. Sephiroth can now use the power of Jenova to manipulate the Sephiroth clones and those infused with Jenova cells, using them to bring him the black materia. He can also appear as an illusion, causing people to believe the actual physical Sephiroth is still alive. His physical body, however, remains in the Great North Cave. Hojo's experiment to create a Sephiroth clone fails, and the subjects enter into a coma-like state, unable to speak. Shinra engages in a large-scale cover-up of the Nibelheim incident, rebuilding the city and repopulating it with Shinra staff that deny all knowledge of the catastrophe. At some point, Hojo develops a theory called the Jenova Reunion, believing that all parts of Jenova, down to the cellular level, will eventually migrate back to Jenova's main body. Believing this may encourage the discovery of the Promised Land, Jenova is brought to Shinra headquarters where Hojo conducts additional research. At some point, he captures Red 13 or Nanaki for experimentation as well. 4 years before the events of the game, the small town of Corel is persuaded to allow Shinra to build a Mako reactor nearby. Despite the reluctance of one citizen, Dine, to accept the construction of the plant, Barrett Wallace advocates for it because coal has become useless. One day after the plant has been built, Barrett and Dine arrive from a trip to find Corel burning to the ground. Shinra lit the town on fire, blaming explosions at the new reactor on a rebel faction of Corel citizens. As they try to flee from Shinra forces sent to kill them, Barrett and Dine both have one arm shot off, and Dine falls off a cliff. He is presumed dead. Corel is completely destroyed and becomes a prison camp for the Gold Saucer. Barrett returns to Corel to find his wife, Myrna, dead. Disgraced, Barrett leaves Corel. He grafts a gun into his arm. Swearing vengeance upon Shinra, he forms the terrorist group Avalanche, using the basement of the Seventh Heaven Bar as a headquarters. He brings Marlene, Dine's daughter, who he cares for as his own. At some point before the events of the game, Zack and Cloud successfully escape from the Shinra mansion. Cloud is in a coma-like state from the exposure to Mako and Jenova injections and cannot speak. However, Zack was already exposed to Mako and Jenova cells because of his time in Soldier. He does not react to the poisoning as Cloud does. Shinra keeps records in the Nibelheim mansion, noting that the two have escaped. Zack assists Cloud by dressing him in a spare soldier uniform, and they hitchhike on the back of a truck to Midgar. Along the way, Zack decides that they will become mercenaries together. Zack tells Cloud all about Soldier and the events within the Nibelheim reactor. As Zack and Cloud approach Midgar, they are ambushed by Shinra soldiers. Zack is immediately shot many times and killed, but Cloud is spared as he is perceived to be no threat at all. Cloud crawls slowly over to Zack, picking up his sword with Midgar in the background. A woozy Cloud somehow makes it to the Sector 7 train station, where Tifa finds him in a dazed state. After recognizing him, she decides to keep an eye on him so that he is safe. At this point, the memories of Cloud's past are merged with Zack's, giving Cloud the impression that he was in Soldier. As a mercenary, Cloud is persuaded by Tifa to assist Avalanche and blow up the Mako reactors in Midgar. At this point, the events of the actual game begin. Cloud joins Barrett and Avalanche to blow up a Mako reactor. They successfully set the bomb and escape in the nick of time. On the way back, Cloud bumps into Eris, selling flowers in the slums. Back at the Avalanche headquarters, Cloud runs into Tifa, his childhood friend. He recalls a promise he made to Tifa as children, swearing to save her if she was ever in danger. Interested in money most of all, Cloud reluctantly agrees to join Avalanche to blow up a second reactor. This time, Tifa joins as well. After escaping Shinra's security alert system, the group manages to set another bomb at the Sector 5 reactor. There, Cloud has a mental spasm, viewing Tifa alongside her dead father in a similar Mako reactor, accusing Sephiroth of killing him. As they escape, the group is surprised by the president of Shinra, who arrives to deploy a machine, Airbuster, to fight with them. Airbuster explodes, causing Cloud to fall down into the Sector 5 slums below. Cloud awakens in a church where he meets Eris again. Reno of the Turks shows up to capture Eris. Cloud agrees to protect Eris and helps her escape out of the top of the church. When they reach Eris's house, Cloud is introduced to Elmira, her adoptive mother. Eris promises to show Cloud around the slums the next day, but Elmira asks Cloud to escape alone. When he does so, Eris is waiting for him. On the way to Wall Market, they notice a kidnapped Tifa in a carriage. They find out that she has been captured by Don Corneo, the owner of a brothel. Cloud and Eris concoct a plan to sneak into the brothel and save Tifa. As they do so, Don Corneo admits that Shinra planned to break the plate above Sector 7 to bury Avalanche completely. Reeve, the head of Shinra's housing department, objects to the plan, but President Shinra allows him to take leave so that he and Heidegger can bring the plan to fruition. When Cloud, Eris, and Tifa make their way back to the Avalanche headquarters, they find Barret fighting on top of the Sector 7 pillar. When Tifa and Cloud get to the top, they fight Reno of the Turks, who arms a bomb. Eris is captured by Sang, and the group cannot stop the detonation of the explosion in time. The pillar comes crashing down, completely destroying the Sector 7 slums. Barret lashes out in anger, thinking Marlene is dead. However, the crew finds Marlene safe at Eris's home. The group decides to confront Shinra directly at its headquarters. After infiltrating Shinra headquarters, Cloud and the group find out that Shinra will not be rebuilding Sector 7 at all, and will continue instead to seek the Promised Land, planning to build a new city, Neo Midgar, there. Hojo notes that he has been running tests on Eris, and plans to breed her. The group finds a headless Jenova on the floor above, and Cloud has a mental response. The crew rescues Eris and a creature called Red 13, but they are eventually captured and brought before President Shinra. He says they will use Eris to find the Promised Land for Shinra. Cloud and the group are then locked up, but wake up suddenly to find the doors unlocked and the guards dead. They follow a trail of blood from Jenova's pod up to the highest floors, where President Shinra is dead, with Sephiroth's sword sticking into his body. Palmer says that he saw Sephiroth refusing to allow Shinra to find the Promised Land. On the roof, Rufus has assumed the presidency, and professes that his administration will be based upon striking fear into Midgar's inhabitants. Cloud fights with him and he escapes, while the rest of the group fights the 100 gunner. As they escape from the building, Cloud rides a motorcycle through Midgar, while the rest of the group rides in a truck. At the end of the track, they square off against Motorball. They decide to leave Midgar in pursuit of Sephiroth. The crew ventures to the nearby town of Calm, where Cloud tells his version of the events with Sephiroth at Nibelheim 5 years ago. In reality, Cloud's memories are mixed with Zack's. Upon entering the mines, they run into the Turks and their new recruit, Elena. Elena inadvertently admits that the Turks are following Sephiroth and heading to Junon Harbor. At Junon Village, Cloud wonders why he failed to socialize with Tifa during his trip to Nibelheim 5 years ago. After getting to the harbor, Cloud dresses as a Shinra soldier and takes part in Rufus's inauguration festivities. There, Cloud finds out that Hojo has resigned from Shinra and that Sephiroth has been seen in Junon. Cloud and the group manages to sneak onto Rufus's ship. They finally see Sephiroth for the first time, which is actually Jenova assuming Sephiroth's likeness. The ship arrives at Costa del Sol, where Hojo is found vacationing. He doesn't divulge much information, but he says to head west and asks Cloud if he's ever had the feeling he's being called somewhere. The group reaches North Corel, where everyone hates Barret for his role in Corel's destruction. He tells the team about his history with Shinra and the tale of the town's destruction. As they venture to the Gold Saucer, they find out that Sephiroth has been looking for the Black Materia, without any understanding of what the object is or does. There, Cait Sith, a gray cat, joins the party. Cait Sith is actually controlled by Reeve of Shinra, and joins to spy on Cloud and the group. After suspecting that a mass of murders in the Gold Saucer was committed by Barret, Dio throws Cloud and the gang into Corel prison. There, Barret explains the town's past and learns that Dyne, another man with a gun grafted on his arm, is responsible for the deaths. Barret confronts Dyne and tells him that Marlene, his daughter, is still alive. Nonetheless, Dyne gives him a pendant to give Marlene and commits suicide by throwing himself off the cliff. After winning a chocobo race, Cloud and the group are set free by Dio and given a buggy. They get to Cosmo Canyon, Red 13's hometown, where they discover his actual name is Nanaki. There, Buchenhagen explains the life stream, the spirit force that binds the world and assures the continuation of life. At the Gi Cave, Nanaki discovers that his father died a hero's death, protecting the canyon from the Gi tribe that tried to attack it. Cloud and the crew arrive at Nibelheim, surprised that the town has been completely rebuilt following Sephiroth's scourge 5 years ago. They run into Sephiroth in the Shinra Mansion library. He asks Cloud if he'll be attending the reunion, then escapes. The team recruits Vincent, a man locked in a coffin in the Shinra Mansion, who promises to join upon learning that the team has been searching for Sephiroth and Hojo. Cloud learns that the woman who gave birth to Sephiroth was named Lucrecia. In Rocket Town, Cloud meets Sid, learning that Rufus is en route. Rufus wishes to take the tiny Bronco, Sid's plane, and Palmer attempts to steal it. Cloud then takes the tiny Bronco instead. They manage to escape, but the flying capability of the tiny Bronco is destroyed. The group obtains the keystone to the Temple of the Ancients from Dio in the Gold Saucer, but it is stolen by Cait Sith and given to Sang of the Turks. Cait Sith admits to being a Shinra spy, but is allowed to stay in the group because Marlene is taken hostage by Shinra. The group then heads to the Temple of the Ancients in pursuit of Sephiroth. At the temple, they find a dying Sang, who has been slain by the likeness of Sephiroth. After revealing that Sephiroth is not in fact searching for the Promised Land, he provides the keystone to the party so that they can enter. Sephiroth reveals that he plans to inflict a huge wound on the planet, forcing the lifestream to focus on healing that area so that Sephiroth can absorb the energy to become an all-powerful god. He implies that the mural on the wall, a picture of a huge meteor, is the method he will utilize to do so. Cloud cackles about the Black Materia, experiencing another mental lapse. The team obtains the Black Materia from the temple, using Cait Sith to wait behind and be crushed by the collapse of the structure, which is actually the Black Materia. Afterward, Sephiroth's likeness appears to the group again, and Cloud has another spasm. He is manipulated by Sephiroth to hand over the Black Materia, then attack Aeris. Cloud dreams that Aeris has left to deal with Sephiroth alone, heading toward the Forgotten City. Although Cloud is afraid of himself and his potential to sabotage the group, he is convinced to continue on. When they arrive, they find Aeris praying. Cloud is manipulated again by Sephiroth and almost slices Aeris until he is stopped by the party. At that exact moment, Sephiroth falls from the air, stabbing Eris through the body and killing her. A small white materia falls out of Eris's hair into the water below. As Sephiroth boasts he is about to become one with the planet, an enraged Cloud berates him. Sephiroth tells Cloud that he does not have any actual feelings because he is a puppet. Eris is put to rest in the water in the Forgotten City. Cloud questions himself again, but vows to continue on to confront Sephiroth in order to avenge the suffering he has caused. The group ventures north where they are briefly confronted by Ifalna of the Turks at Icicle Inn. There, they discover a series of videos Professor Gast left that captured his conversations with Ifalna on the Ancients and Weapon. Cloud ventures into the center of the crater, observing the train of Sephiroth clones heading in the same direction. Just then, the team are discovered by Rufus, Hojo, Scarlet, and Heidegger. They descend upon the crater as Rufus believes it to be the Promised Land. Hojo obsesses about the reunion, the event Sephiroth referenced earlier. After running across the likeness of Sephiroth again, Cloud retrieves the black materia once more. He hands it off to a companion for safekeeping. Sephiroth brings Cloud into an illusion, showing him the true circumstances at Nibelheim 5 years ago. He declares that Cloud was not with him during those events. Cloud dismisses Sephiroth's musings as a lie, but Tifa seems unsure. Sephiroth then shows Cloud a picture of the group that day, showing Zack, Sephiroth, and Tifa at Nibelheim. Cloud is not among them. Sephiroth contends that Cloud is a failed experiment, a Sephiroth clone entirely made of Jenova cells by Hojo 5 years ago. He says that the personality of Cloud was created when he came across Tifa in Midgar, and Jenova's power shaped itself around Tifa's memories. Cloud and Tifa cannot reconcile their childhood memories and Sephiroth's revelation. Cloud has another mental spasm and collapses to the ground. Cloud suddenly appears among the group of Shinra officials and tells everyone to leave. Hojo believes Cloud's acts are confirmation of his reunion theory, uniting all pieces of Jenova in a specific location. He says that Sephiroth is actively controlling the clones to deliver the black materia to him. Rather than chasing Sephiroth throughout the entire game, the team has been summoned and led by Jenova in Sephiroth's form. Hojo iterates that Cloud is simply a failed experiment, although he does not have a tattooed number like the other clones. A rumble is heard and a giant eye blinks at the group. Under the control of Jenova and Sephiroth, Cloud receives the black materia from his companion. He then leaps up to the Mako-encased Sephiroth and hands over the black materia. A giant earthquake occurs as Weapon leaps out of the earth and seals the crater with a huge energy barrier. The rest of the team escapes on the high wind. Tifa realizes she met Cloud at the Sector 7 railway station just prior to the events of the game, uncomfortable about her previous memories of him. She reveals that Cloud knew some things he shouldn't have, and didn't know other things he should have. Tifa awakens days later, and Barret reveals that a giant meteor, which was summoned by Sephiroth, is headed toward the planet. Rufus appears and announces that the two will be executed so that Shinra can publicly blame them for Sephiroth's atrocities. Tifa is separated from Barret and taken to the gas chamber by Scarlet. Just as the two are to be executed, an alert sounds as Weapon is heading toward the harbor. A disguised Cait Sith appears to disable Scarlet and free Barret. Rufus orders to fire Junon's cannon upon Weapon. The firepower appears to delay the beast for a moment, but then Weapon unleashes its own weaponry against Junon. Tifa escapes from the chamber, making it to the end of Junon's cannon, where she slaps Scarlet silly. She then runs and jumps off the end of the cannon, grabbing a rope to the high wind, which has been taken by the rest of the group. The group finds Cloud in Midgar. He He washed ashore there after having fallen into the life stream and is experiencing serious Mako poisoning. Tifa decides to stay back to take care of Cloud. The group learns that Shinra plans to destroy Meteor by collecting all the huge materia from Mako reactors found throughout the world, using their power as a bomb to hurl against Meteor, smashing it to bits. At North Corel, they managed to save the first huge materia by hijacking a train taken by Shinra and preventing it from smashing right through the town. At Fort Condor, the team fights to save a massive phoenix on the top of the abandoned reactor, retrieving a second huge materia. When the team ventures back to Midgar to check on Cloud, Ultimate Weapon strikes. The life stream erupts through the earth, swallowing both Tifa and Cloud. Therein, Cloud and Tifa experience scenes from their past. At Nibelheim, Tifa admits that she never saw Cloud 5 years ago, and Zack was there instead. It is revealed that Cloud is actually the Cloud from Nibelheim, but he wasn't especially close to Tifa as a child. When Tifa hurt herself on Mount Nibel, Cloud felt powerless to protect her, and joined soldiers so that he would be noticed. Dressed as a normal Shinra fighter in Nibelheim 5 years ago, Cloud was actually able to protect Tifa, flinging Sephiroth into the life stream, where he drifted with Jenova's head to the northern crater and has remained ever since. Upon these discoveries, Cloud recovers and comes to terms with his past and regains his consciousness. He has a renewed drive to confront Sephiroth and save the planet. With Cloud back, the team heads to Junon, where Shinra is in the process of extracting a huge materia from the reactor and placing it on a submarine. The submarine carrying the huge materia leaves the port, but Cloud and the gang hijacks another submarine that shoots down the one carrying the huge materia. However, the huge materia is retrieved and shipped by air to Rocket Town. At Rocket Town, the group manages to fight their way onto the rocket. The autopilot device is turned on, and Palmer successfully launches the craft into space carrying the huge materia. Sid manages to realize his dream of going to space. Cloud retrieves the huge materia, and the group makes it out in an escape pod. The rocket slams face on into Meteor, but Meteor successfully reassembles itself and continues to fall toward the planet. Bugenhagen believes the key to defeating Sephiroth lies in a force called Holy, which was summoned by Eris's white materia before she died. The team retrieves the key to the Ancients on the bottom of the sea and brings it back to Bugenhagen. Cloud and the team realizes that Eris was already attempting to summon Holy prior to being slain by Sephiroth. The power of Holy can only be unleashed if Sephiroth is defeated. Kate Sith supplies the news that Shinra has taken the huge cannon from Junon, the Sister Ray, and has moved it to Midgar. Shinra plans to fire it upon Sephiroth's energy barrier in the northern crater. Suddenly, Weapon rises out of the sea and approaches Midgar. Cloud and the team try to fight it off, but it is to no avail. In desperation, Shinra fires the Sister Ray upon the weapon. It falls, but manages to fire a volley of shots toward Midgar. President Rufus is killed, but the energy barrier surrounding the northern crater dissipates. Before heading to the crater, Vincent runs into Lucrecia, who has been preserved through Jenova cells. She asks what happened to her child, Sephiroth. Rather than to concern her with the current circumstances, Vincent tells Lucrecia that Sephiroth is dead. Kate Sith reveals that the energy fed to the Sister Ray will soon destroy Midgar entirely. It is discovered that Hojo is the one supplying power to the cannon. Cloud and the group parachute into Midgar, where they run into the Turks and a machine piloted by Scarlet and Heidegger. When they get to the top, they find Hojo obsessed with supplying additional power to his son, Sephiroth. After revealing that he has injected himself with Jenova cells, the the team beats Mutant Hojo and manages to shut down the energy feed. Cloud reveals that there are only 7 days to defeat Sephiroth until Meteor strikes the planet. Cloud and the group finally confront Sephiroth in the northern crater. The team defeats his first and second form, then Cloud faces off against Sephiroth alone. Sephiroth is finally destroyed by Cloud, but Meteor continues to plummet. The High Wind is destroyed, thrown aside by the intense destruction of Meteor and the emergence of Holy. From a cliff, the group hopes that Holy will be enough to save the planet. Just as Meteor begins to wreak havoc upon Midgar, Holy attempts to counteract Meteor. Unfortunately, it cannot overpower Meteor and continues to fall toward the planet. Just then, the Life Stream appears and fights back against Meteor, joining with Holy and counteracting the Force. As Meteor breaks apart, a vision of Eris is seen in the Life Stream. 500 years in the future, Nanaki and his offspring run through a field that overlooks Midgar, which is now ruins covered with vegetation. And that is the complete plot of Final Fantasy VII. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed. If you liked it, please subscribe to my channel.